Here we go. Holiness, holiness is what I long for. Holiness is what I need. Holiness, holiness is what you want from me. Righteousness. Righteousness, righteousness is what I long for. Righteousness is what I need. Righteousness, righteousness is what you want from me. So take my heart. So take my heart and form it. Take my mind, transform it. Take my will, conform it to yours, oh Lord. To yours, oh Lord. Faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness is what I long for. Faithfulness is what I need. Faithfulness, faithfulness is what you want from me. Brokenness. Brokenness, brokenness is what I long for. Brokenness is what I need. Brokenness, brokenness is what you want from me. So take my heart. And take my heart and form it. Take my mind, transform it. Take my will, conform it to yours, oh Lord. To yours, oh Lord. Give them praise this morning, church.
Amen. Mike, can you open us up this morning? Amen. You can be seated, church. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, amen, for the 2 weeks, amen, that me and my wife got off. I didn't realize how much I needed the rest. I've been pastoring for 23 years. That's the first time I've ever missed a Sunday of church unless I was sick and couldn't make it. And so it didn't feel good missing Sunday, but I still watched online. And I came back so refreshed, full of energy. Like I said, I didn't realize how much I needed the rest. And I feel ready to kick it in gear and start hitting it hard. So I'm not good. I'm not sure if giving me rest is a good idea. You guys probably need to keep me tired. And so, amen. This is just between me and you, but I feel, I'll just wait. Deuteronomy chapter 6, 5 through 7. We're beginning a new Sunday school, parenting skills. And this morning, we're going to look at honesty is the best policy, right, when it comes to your own parenting skills. the way that you parent, the way that you are an example in your home. As we begin to evaluate, as we begin to compare, as we begin to see what the experts are saying, and I've even asked some of my friends and pastors, I've gotten their advice, their opinion. Everyone has different styles, obviously, of parenting, but I think the goals should be the same. Amen. And so the key, I will say this, the key to this Sunday school, especially when it comes to making an impact in our homes, is understanding our role as parents. I mean, no, you don't stop being a parent ever in life. Amen. Your kids get older, and you're still a parent. But it's more than just understanding your role. I think we have to also, in this Sunday school, have to be honest with ourselves and apply what we're learning and make some changes if we need to. Now, I understand that there's a lot of good parents here. You do a fantastic job, but we can always become better. Can you say amen? And so Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 12. There's not going to be a lot of scripture in this. This is what we're going to have in just a minute is some questions, and it's going to give you a gauge as to how good of a parent you are, or let's just say how good or bad of a parent. I do want to say that the questions came directly out of the book. I didn't add a word. I didn't add a question. These are straight out of the book, okay? And I'm not going to tell you the name of the book just yet, but we will start today with just questions, and then I'm going to give a little bit of insight. I need Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 12 to be read. Eric, and this will be probably the only scripture that's read. Let's go ahead and read this. Parenting skills. Remember, honesty is the best policy.
Four through 12?
Mm-hmm.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and you shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So it shall be, when the Lord your God brings you into the land of which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you large and beautiful cities which you did not build, houses full of all good things which you did not fill. Hewn out wells which you do not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you do not plant, when you have eaten and are full. Then beware, lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage.
Amen. Now, God in our text said, you diligently teach your children where? Where did he instruct us to teach our children? In the house, at home, right? And so that's what verse 7, you shall teach them diligently to your children and shall talk to them when you sit in your house. In other words, parenting begins at home, right? And so sometimes the way that we run our homes, the way that we raise our children or even cater to our children can be the biggest stumbling blocks in our children's future. And I want to just remind you of the story. I know we've used it before, of Helen Keller. Helen Keller was blind and deaf right when she was about 1 year and 8 months, I believe, is when she developed a disease that took her vision, took her hearing. And so her parents began to hire teachers to try to get her to understand objects and words and different things. And they tried several teachers to no avail. They all quit. And finally, Anne Sullivan was the one that was able to teach her. She wanted to observe not just Helen Keller, but she wanted to observe her parents interacting with her on a daily basis. And I believe after just a couple of weeks, she was able to make an evaluation. And what she figured was that Helen Keller's biggest handicaps weren't her being deaf or blind. Her biggest handicaps were her parents. The way that they catered to her, the tantrums that they would allow her to throw. And she told the parents the biggest hindrance, the biggest handicap to Helen Keller's life are her parents. And so I believe that this is true, amen, whether we're talking about our kids being hindered or blessed in life, right? Is that we are the teachers, right? Teaching, God said, begins at home. And so we're going to be starting this new Sunday school with a questionnaire. Now, remember, you have to be, first of all, very honest with the questions. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to pull out your device right now or a pen and a paper, whichever you use. I'm going to ask you a question. And like I said, it's from the book. I want you to grade yourself from 1 to 10. 1 means never. You would never allow it. 10 means always. Okay, 1 is never. 10 is always. And if you fall somewhere in the middle, then you can put seldom. So never is 1, 5 through 6 is seldom, and 10 is always. It's always allowed, or you always do what I'm asking, okay? So please, if you're a parent, I want you to take this test with me, amen? Number 2 is if you are a kid or your your kids are next to you. Kids, I want you to also pull out a pen and a paper or use your device, whichever you have. And I want you to answer the same questions that I'm asking your parents. In other words, I'm going to ask them a question. They're going to answer their own question, but the kids are also going to answer for them. You're going to give your parents a grade, in other words. Okay? Okay, so is everybody, if you have a pen, paper, or your device ready for the questions, I want you to lift your hand. Is everybody ready? Okay. Everybody's ready? Kids? All the kids ready? Okay. Here we go. First question is, let me see. I'll tell you what, post it. First question, when my kids begin failing at a task, I try to help them out and prevent the failure. 1 is never. 5 through 6 is seldom. 10 is always. When my kids begin failing at a task, I try to help them out and prevent the failure. That's the first question. Now put 2 for the second question. Okay? The second question, go ahead and post it. Regarding my children's future, I nudge them in a direction I wish I'd gone myself. 1 is seldom. 10 is always. Regarding my children's future, I nudge them in a direction I wish I'd gone myself, okay? Kids, you're doing this also, please. Third question, put a number 3, and then you're going to grade yourself. My primary goal in my children's is my children's happiness, and that's what I hope they pursue. 1 is never. The middle is seldom. Sorry, you're grading yourself from 1 to 10. You can give yourself a 2, a 3, a 5. And 10 is always. Okay, give me number 4. I'm so busy, I frequently relax on enforcing our house rules. House rules. 1 is never. Okay, you get it by now. Number 5. When my children mess up, I come to their aid and fix the problem for them. 1 to 10, remember. Everybody good? Is everybody keeping up? Okay. No? Am I going too fast? I'm going too fast? You guys want me to go back? Let me go back then. Okay, you ready? Remember, we're grading your parenting skills. One is you never allow, in between is seldom, and number 10 is always. You're grading yourself, and your kids are also grading you. Okay, number 1, when my kids begin failing at a task, I try to help them out and prevent the failure. That's 1 to 10, the grade. Okay. Okay, let's do number 2. Second question. Regarding my children's future, I nudge them in a direction I wish I gone myself. 1 is never, you would never do that. 5 is, you admit you do a little. And 10 is always. It'd probably help you if you just write 1 through 12, the numbers, while others are catching up right now. Okay, number 3, my primary goal is my children's happiness, and that's what I hope they pursue, their happiness. That's your goal. You just love to see your kids happy all the time. Woo-hoo, happiness, joy. Okay. Number 4, are we good? Keep moving. Kids, are you grading? Okay. Number 4 is I'm so busy, I frequently relax on enforcing our house rules. In other words, you're always tired. You don't have energy to be consistent with your kids at home. That's probably a better way. 1 is never, 5 is seldom or sometimes, and 10 is always. Number 5. Number 5 is when my children mess up, I come to their aid and fix the problem for them. 1 is you would never do that. 5 is you kind of get involved. 10 is you always let them figure it out and build their own relationship with God. Okay? We good? So I think the intro is going to need two Sundays, and that's okay. I want us to really learn. This isn't a beat up parent Sunday school, okay? This is going to teach us some things. I learned a lot as I was reading it. I got so inspired. I felt that it would be good for everyone to get inspired about raising their kids. Number 6, I want my kids to have strong self-esteem, so I go overboard with praise for them. They mess up and, oh, good job, at least you tried. It's okay, good job. You know, you're lying to your kid. And you just don't want them to experience any kind of low self-esteem, so you lie to your kids. Number 7, I find that I am unable to build a strong sense of ambition in my children. This question is going to show up a lot in this Sunday school. I find that I am unable to build a strong sense of ambition in my children. This one seems kind of similar to the other question, but it's not. Give me number 8. Is it number 8? Yeah, number 8. When my kids are struggling, I jump in and do it for them to relieve the stress. You know, they have 4 or 5 things they have to do in the day, and they're stressing out, and they're, feeling overwhelmed. And so you say, you know what, I'll wash the dishes for you. Go ahead and you go to the outreach or something like that. We have 12 questions. We're in number 9. Number 9 is I buy things for my children that they want and can't seem to wait for. You never do that, number 1. 5 through 6 in the middle is seldom, sometimes. Number 10 is always. You always do that. You always buy them what they want. You buy them their Christmas gift in November. Okay. We're good? Everybody good? Okay, kids, you're good? Okay, don't show your parents what you're putting. Okay, because then they're going to change their answer. Remember, parents, you need to be honest, because your kid's going to be very honest, I promise you. Number 10, I affirm my kids by telling them they are smart and beautiful or gifted. They're ugly, but you tell them, man, you're beautiful. You're going to be a Miss Universe when you grow up. It's like, I affirm my kids by telling them they are smart or beautiful or gifted. Number 11, I hurt so much when my kid experiences pain or setbacks, I try to prevent them. This is a big no-no. This is probably one of the biggest problems that children are facing, is their parents don't allow them to go through anything. And the sad thing about that is that setbacks, problems build character. You know, when my kids tell me they're overwhelmed or they're stressed and that they can't handle life, I tell them, you're going to be okay. You can handle more than you think, and stress builds character. And if you can be a leader or you can be a follower, you want to be a leader, then you need to learn how to handle stress. And then if you want to sound real spiritual, you can tell them God won't give you more than you can handle. Number 12. When parenting my kids, I focus mainly on the issues and problems at hand today. When parenting my kids, I focus mainly on the issues and problems at hand today. And I hope the questions came out on live stream. If they didn't, we need to put them all together and maybe post it somehow for them. Okay, parents, I want you to total your points. Total your points. A perfect parent would have 120 points. A perfect parent, right? 1 to 10, 12 questions. Okay, kids, I want you to total your score. The grade you gave your parents for these questions. Okay, someone let me know. Is everybody ready? Everybody got it? Kids, parents, got it? Okay, parents, I want you to show your kid your score. Show your kid your score. From 100 to 20. I'm not going to ask anybody their score, so relax. This is between you and your kids. Okay. Parents, show your kids the score you gave yourself. Okay. Now, kids, show your parents the score you gave them. Does it match? So, according to a recent nationwide survey, American parents gave themselves a grade of A or B, right, on their parenting skills, but they gave all other parents a D. And when asking the parents what grade they gave themselves, again, an A or a B. 9 out of 10 kids gave their parents a D or an F. How did you guys do with your kids? You're like, you better give me a good grade or I'm not taking you out to eat. So what you need to do is go back, right, and look at the questions and focus this year on the questions where you scored high. right? Those are the areas that you are going to need help with, and they are also areas that we are going to be covering throughout this Sunday school. Anybody have any questions or something you want to add right here? It's about to move really fast right now. Tony in the top.
I'm just laughing, Pastor, because we're so biased to ourselves, right? We're so prejudiced. We're so biased to ourselves. We always judge ourselves according to our motive. Well, I help my kids because of this or because of that or because of this. We always judge ourselves by our motives, but we're always judging other people by their actions.
Yeah.
We could care less about their motive.
Yeah.
I could care less that you're tired or weary. You just dropped the ball. That's all I care about. And so we're kind of biased, right? We give ourselves false evaluations.
Yeah, that's why it's good to ask the kids. Because kids are honest when it comes to their parents only. In nothing else are they honest. But when it comes to their parents. But you pretty much said what I'm about to say. So I have to be careful with Tony because he's a preacher at heart. And so let's look at, first of all, parenting begins at home again. And God gave us clear instructions, right? In verse 7, like I said, he says, teach this to them when you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you're sitting with them. So remember that the subject that we are supposed to be teaching our kids is how to love God and how to put God first. This was the commandment that God had given. And that is what we are supposed to be teaching. Remember also that the parent is the teacher, the child is the student, and your home is the classroom, not the other way around. The teacher should not be the student, right? The kid. So, like Tony said, parents many times, let themselves off the hook, because of their situations, right? Because, I'm a single mom, I'm a single dad, I've had it hard, I wasn't taught, I don't know. So we tend to let ourselves off the hook. And because of that, we dismiss the fact that home is supposed to be the classroom. So what do? We rely on institutions, programs, and even the church to raise our children. Can I say that it's not the church's responsibility to raise your children? Okay, that is not the purpose of the church. The purpose of the church is to teach your children about God, not to teach your children how to behave. Okay, and so that is not the purpose of the church. God said this has to begin at home. Most parents, I've noticed in our church work really hard though at trying to be a good parent. Some of the hardest working parents when it comes to parenting, not a physical job, but I see the effort. I see that you pay attention to sermons and you try to apply those things. Those things are great, right? Because that is our responsibility. And but like the survey said, we judge others, or like Tony said, we judge others by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions, right? And so because of this, it's real easy, right? What do we say? I can't believe they spoil their kid that way, right? Or we say, I can't believe someone can't get that kid to behave. And ours is running around in the background, right? And so, it's because we just gave them, children's church just gave them sugar. Yeah, okay. See, we make excuses for the way we parent, and we make excuses for our kids. And here's the thing is if we let our kids off the hook, then we can let ourselves off the hook, right? I mean, if we don't have to take responsibility for our children, then, or we're not going to address the issues that our children have, then we get to let ourselves off the hook. Especially, like I said, if we see our kids are stressed out. Or, what we do is we give them a free pass for having attitudes because we feel guilty for their lives. Right? In other words, I feel guilty because I had to raise my kid in a broken home. I feel guilty because I have to work all the time. And so therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and give them a free pass to have an attitude. Again, when my kids are stressed out, I tell them stress builds character. right? God has great things for your future if he's giving you this amount of stress at such a young age. Here's the thing, is you can begin to second guess yourself, especially as your kids get older and you're still raising little ones, right? You begin to experience and see them go through their own troubles in life and for themselves. And what we do is you begin to ask yourself if maybe we were just too hard on our first kids. Maybe we didn't give them enough affection, enough love, enough hugs. And so what do now? We go the complete opposite way. We were super hard on our first kid or first kids, but number 3, 4, and 5, we go super soft. Right? We don't find the balance. We go to one extreme, from one extreme to the other. And so what you end up finding out when you're done raising kids is that you didn't do good with your first kids and you didn't do good with the second batch of kids. Your first kids, you were super hard on. Your second kids grew up to be spoiled and soft because you didn't challenge them to anything because you felt so guilty of how you raised your first ones. Does that make sense? I know, I've gone through this myself. You know, my boys I raised super hard. No excuses. Get up. You're going to go to work. You're going to clean the yard. You're going to be outside. You're not going to look at your mom that way. Right? But then you kind of you feel guilty for that. Me and my wife have talked about this. My wife has told me, you were an amazing father to our sons. But you were also really hard. I have to wonder. She said to me, I think last year, I have to wonder how different they would be if you would have just gave them more hugs or more affection or, what I do now. And so what we're going to find out in this Sunday school is that either or is right. There has to be a balance. There has to be discipline and there has to be love. Right? There has to be rules and there has to be freedom. And this is what we're going to learn throughout this Sunday school. Here's the thing. When it comes to parenting, nobody gave us a manual on how to parent. Right? And let's be honest, most of us had bad examples as parents. And so we weren't given a manual. It's not like we knew or we had these amazing parents that we could mimic or that we can use as a pattern in our life. Some of us have, I get that. My wife had amazing parents. But we weren't given a manual on how to raise our children. We especially weren't given a manual on how to raise children in the 21st century, where technology and culture and cyberspace, they play such a big role in our kids' lives right now. But this is where we find ourselves. And so in this, Tony?
Pastor, when you mentioned about how strict we are with our firstborn, you really brought up a thought because it's so true. I know I've experienced that failure that you're talking about. And suddenly it dawned on me, all the firstborn sons in the Bible that failed. Cain was the firstborn son. Reuben, who defiled his father's couch. Esau, who became a thorn in Isaac and Rebekah's side. The list just goes down and down. And I think you really hit something there, the firstborn.
Yeah.
I think you really hit something on there. I know that I've talked to Edwin many times. Man, Edwin, I wish I would have done things different. But it just makes me pray more because how can I go back and change it, right?
Yeah, we need more prayer because of the guilt we feel, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, right? Obviously, giving kids a good start, raising them in church, gives them a big head start in life, right? And so, but there is, it does. I know it hits a nerve in my home, and so, and I have second guessed myself, but one thing I can say about my kids, my older kids, is they all know God, and they're all hard workers, right? And so it's not all bad at the end of the day. In this Sunday school, we are going to look at 12 of the most common mistakes that parents make today. None of them are deliberate, okay? None of these are, a parent saying, this is how I want to ruin my kid. But they're very obvious mistakes that we make during our parenting. And so we're going to cover in this Sunday school how these mistakes can cripple and hinder our children from growing and maturing into the adults and the men and women of God that God has called them to be. And so I'm hoping that in this Sunday school, it's going to bring a balance, like I said, and encourage us rather than discourage us, and help us to take our parenting roles more serious. Our job as parents is to be teachers. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Okay, I'm going to revisit something that I said in the beginning. It's very important that you're honest with your parenting as we move forward with this Sunday school. Okay, it's also very important because what we tend to do is we tend to dismiss what we don't like about advice when it comes to raising children, right? And so I'm going to ask you to be open-hearted. Remember, a parachute only works when it's open, right? And that's the way your mind is. That's the way your home is. You have to be open to certain things. And so I read about President James Garfield. President James Garfield in 1881, he walked into a train station in New York City. He had no idea that lurking there in the side was a man by the name of Charles Gettu. Charles Gettu, the moment he saw President Garfield, he took 2 shots at him. He fired one at his shoulder, and the other one hit his pancreas, or was right by the side of his pancreas. So what happened is that Dr. Bliss, this was the doctor, Dr. Willard Bliss, he was appointed to work on President Garfield. And so 2 things happened. President Garfield ended up dying eventually 11 days later. He didn't die from the bullet wounds, though. He died from the infections. And so what was happening is there were other doctors telling Dr. Bliss, hey, you need to wash your utensils. And he would dismiss them. Are you telling me that something as small as a microgerm is going to affect this surgery? And so we know now that the answer to that is yes. The second thing is that he refused to take another doctor's advice. And he said he knew exactly what he was doing and he didn't need any outside help. And as a result, the president ended up dying. The same is true when it comes to raising children. It's the little things that hurt our children in the long haul. And we have to make sure that we are not like Dr. Bliss. You know, I bet you if Dr. Bliss could have gone back and waved some kind of magic wand and do it all over again, he would do it. He would admit that he needed help. He would admit that he didn't know it all. And sometimes, as parents, like I said, we're too quick to turn down or ignore advice from others when it comes to raising our children. And we tend to focus more on our own methods. Okay, and so a lot of these methods were developed by the way we were raised, right? We were abused. So what do? We say, I'm never going to spank my kid. We didn't have anything. We were poor. So what do? We're going to give everything to our kid and make sure that they don't lack anything. These are methods that we developed before we got saved. And so it's very important that we're honest with ourselves. Anybody have something here? There's no way I'm going to make it past this, so we're going to need 2 Sundays. Ruben?
I just kind of want to reaffirm what you were saying right as you started this point, being open. One of the things that I've been so glad about having my kids raised in church and having been raised in this church for the most part, myself as well, is that I've had people to look towards. I've had people to look at, and I've talked to you over the years. I've seen parents and their parenting, and I've got to see the evidence and the fruitfulness over years. And I never, especially now that I'm having my kids becoming into the teenage years, I'm starting to realize what an asset that is, right? Because there's a lot of places where you can't look reliably upon people that are that, because, you know, every home situation is different, but like you said right now, we use our past and our upbringing to influence our decisions, when the reality is we should be using biblical principles to influence how we raise our children, not our past afflictions or our past sufferings. It should be, what does God have to say on this? And in that same vein, the problem I think a lot of times when we don't tell our kids what to do or show them representative, we live in a generation where for the first time ever, I think you have peer-to-peer, meaning the kids are teaching other kids. They're learning their habits from other kids, rather than there being this real fervent push for parents and people, because a lot of people that I interact with, that's what they kind of talk about. They get mad at the teachers, they get mad at this, and it's like, well, that's not their place. And if you leave it there, then that's when they're learning from their friends. They're learning from the things around them. And it's our job as parents to, like you said, be open to, hey, this is the right way of doing things. These are examples that have been put forth to us by Christ himself. We should be listening to these things, because if not, our children will go by the wayside. Our children will go into destruction. But one of the things that I think recently my wife has kind of brought to my attention, and kind of like I think you were talking about at the beginning, is our regret when we make decisions we should have changed with our first kids, and now I have 5, so right, I'm getting to see that progression in my own kids. But one of the things that I think that has kind of alleviated some of that is that I'm not infallible. And I've shown my kids that by saying, you know what, hey, we were stricter with you. That was a mistake. But we're not perfect. But we're going to try and be the best parents we can be to you. And we're going to continue to grow. And I know that's that way that we do that is by continuing to be in church, continue to be faithful. Because just like you, we're growing. But I'm still your parent. You're still going to listen to me. But I want them to see that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to take responsibility for those things. And it's okay to say you're sorry and be like, you know what, that was my fault. That was a little harsh. Because I'm notoriously harsh with my kids, and my wife can attest to that. So I just wanted to put that plug in.
Yeah, very good. And if I could say, you know, one of the things that I get a lot when I'm counseling parents is the guilt, right? Obviously, there's a lot of guilt there. You know, we can't fix our past. If you're still raising kids at home, then you can begin to do, Angel Chapa's going to give some input. If you're still raising kids at home, then you can learn from your past mistakes, and then make sure to apply the proper things in raising. Again, the answer is not to go completely soft, right? And so one of the things, before I take Angel, one of the things that this book teaches you, or that it mentioned, was that at this point, after asking parents questions and kind of setting a foundation for the teaching, what happened, then parents began to be a little bit more honest. It says, when asked to consider the kind of example they set for their kids, parents got more honest. According to survey results from T. Rowe Price, nearly a third of parents were willing to admit they were not good role models at home. But, he said, this kind of awareness is healthy, right? Because now you know what to apply, and you understand that there's still room to grow. Okay, Angel.
You just hit on a point right before the topic changed to where we are now, where you said that, you know, we weren't prepared for what's coming, this generation, the 21st century, and at the very end you said social media. Social media is that new microgerm that's destroying. It's killing children. It's a new microgerm. It is something so simple, so easy to take care of if you do it early. But even the world is already finding out. Even secular people, even the news media, even our lawmakers are already finding out that, you know what, this social media is destroying our children. And so they're trying to pass laws where they cannot get online till right now it's like 13, but where they cannot use services like TikTok or Instagram till they're 16. They're trying to raise it. The problem is that we have children on social media at 2 years old, 3 years old, and it is ruining them, but it's such a simple thing. You just say no in the beginning when they're small. And if you want to do a test, take that device away from your child and see how he reacts. And then you'll know if you have a problem or not. And one parent I was talking to at work, one of my coworkers, and he's also a Christian, he was telling me that there's videos online of parents taking the devices away from their children and just seeing
Yeah.
all hell break loose.
Yeah.
Teenagers kicking walls, breaking TVs and throwing things, and little kids, hitting their heads on the floor. The greatest thing you can do right now, and it's the simplest, it's like washing your hands before a surgery. It's, it's just at the very beginning, just take it away from them until they're to an age where they can handle that kind of stuff. But social media is making it so much more difficult to be a parent, and it is ruining so many children with pornography and everything else in between.
Yeah, and we're going to cover, okay, this Sunday school is not going to be about getting rid of your kids' devices. Okay, it's going to be more about monitoring. It's going to be more about having the proper supervision until they get to the proper age where they can handle certain things. But did you know that baby boomers were the first generation to raise kids with the one-eyed demon babysitter? Baby boomers, that's when the TV was brought into the home. Did you know that this generation is the first generation to raise their children with the internet? We're the ones that are setting the pattern on how to raise our children, right? This has never been done before. We can't look back into 1980 or 90 and say, okay, how did they do it with their kids? We're the first generation. And so because of that, there's a couple of firsts that we need to consider, right? When it comes to raising your children, because of the internet, children today don't need adults to get information. It used to be a time when your kids were at the right age that you would sit them down and have the birds and the bees talk with them. They don't need that anymore. They can look on the internet now. They get their information from the internet, and that's where they learn. That's how they, like Angel said, this is where they're getting so much of their knowledge and information from. And they don't need us for information anymore, only for interpretation. Today, schools are teaching them whatever they want. Matter of fact, the aim of the school today is to completely eliminate the parent, because the message that they're sending is that parents, right, are the poison in kids, because they don't, and they're only talking about one group of parents, the ones that apply discipline, the ones that apply rules, the ones that are not agreeing with how they feel, right? And so, number two, another first is that they can broadcast any thought or emotion that they have on the internet, on social media. This is the first. Right before, they would have to talk to counselors or pastors, or, now they just post it, and then everybody gets to give their advice. Some of these posts, some of these kids even get famous. Number three is the first, they have external motivation at their fingertips 24/7. In other words, there was a time when the home, the parents were the ones that imparted motivation inside. Now they're motivated by watching extreme sports, right? They're motivated by things outside. It used to be a time when children took pride in following in their parents' footsteps. And so now, because of the internet, there's this trade and these teachings and these different things aren't being imparted into our kids anymore. Number four is that they are socially connected at all times, but they suffer isolation. They're connected 24/7, but this is the most depressed, suicidal generation that has ever existed. And so we're the first parents that are having to learn how to deal with that. How do you deal with your kid when they tell you you're depressed, when they have everything in the world that you didn't have? And yet they're depressed. They're suicidal. They're loners. They have no friends, no motivation. We're the first generation to have to learn how to deal with that. They're going to learn more from a portable device than from a classroom now. And so, like I said, we have to be careful. We have to be involved. Like Angel said, it begins at home. We're going to learn. You know, again, remember how I started? It's not being overly strict. Right? I'm going to lock you up until you leave, and then you can go make your own decisions. Well, that is a very wrong way to raise children, because you're not teaching them to deal with life. That's not the answer. And so today, the questions that parents are having to deal with is, should we limit kids' cell phone use? Do we become their friends on social media? Do we like them? How much is too much time playing video games? Should we make our children play outside? These are the questions that parents today are having to deal with. What online safety measures should we take? How do we guard and guide their time on the internet? How much freedom should we give our children with their friends? Do those friends need a background check? These are all questions that parents are having to deal with today. The book says we meddle, we lecture, we react and overreact. We poke around at their devices. We review their recent cell phone calls and texts, hoping to find out what they need from us. And psychologists who once called us helicopter parents because we hover over our children are now calling us Apache helicopters. Sometimes we actually do too much in our attempts to help, and we end up hindering them. Okay? These are the things that we're going to cover. These are the next studies. I was able to get through it. Okay? I need 2 more minutes. But these are the 12 studies that we're going to do. Okay? I'm going to give them to you so that you can get a little pumped up about them and tell people to come to the Sunday school. First study that we're going to study is we won't let them fail. The second one, we project our lives on them. The third, we prioritize being happy. The fourth, we are inconsistent. I wish that one was number 1. The fifth is we remove the consequences. The sixth is we lie about their potential and don't explore their true potential. Number 7 is we won't let them struggle or fight. The 8th study is going to be we give them what they should earn. Ooh, that one should be number 2. We give them what they should earn. Number 9, we praise the wrong things. Number 10, study number 10, we value removing all pain. Number 11 is going to be we do it for them. And number 12, we prepare the path for the children instead of the child for the path. That's all I've got. Next Sunday, I will be here doing study number 1. Anybody have something you want to add? Tony on the top. Anybody else? Those titles sounded pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
Very, very scary too, right? You're like, oh shoot, I'm not going to be here for that one. Tony.
Talking about looking at the bigger picture, one thing I appreciate about my dad was that he let me fight when it was necessary to fight. And so I was pretty much a good student. I was only suspended a few times, and usually for fighting. But
me too, Tony.
Pardon me?
I said me too. I was almost suspended. Yeah.
And usually it comes with a 3-day suspension, right? So whenever there's a suspension, my mother would get all upset because she's the mom. She wants her boy to be perfect. She wants him to get along with everybody, be kind, and all this other kind of stuff. And but my dad, he knew the full picture. You know, he knew that, hey, it's not always necessary to know that 5 times 2 is 10, but it is necessary. When you grow up, you're going to have to fight your way through life sometimes. And so, especially in high school, when I get suspended in high school, I come home suspended. My mother's all upset. She's all worried. My dad secretly pulled me aside. He says, son, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you, son. That's the way to do it.
That's such a dad.
He says, but my dad told me, I got to make it look good for your mom. So he says, you're suspended for 3 days. Why don't you go outside and paint the fence in the backyard? But he was proud of me because
Yeah.
he understood. You know, you're not always going to remember the schoolwork, but there's going to be things in life you're going to have to fight your way through. So I'm glad you stood up to that guy. I'm glad that, you know, you did what you did. So just throw that in there.
Okay, all right. We might not be able to air this after that, Tony, and so, we are not encouraging fighting, okay? And so, glory to God. Okay, it's gonna be good. Okay, the last thing I want is parents to come and feel like, oh man, he's just gonna, you know, let's come in with an open mind. And if there's some areas that we need to apply, then let's apply it. Let's see how we can become better parents, because the number one thing this generation is parents are failing is their kids today. Our kids are a complete mess. And so I think it should begin in the church. Okay, that's all I have. Next week, part 1.